I never thought I'd be telling this story to anyone, let alone to thousands of strangers on the internet. But the truth is, what happened to me could happen to anyone. And if it weren't for the sheer injustice of it all, I might have stayed quiet. But let me take you back. It all started one late summer evening. I was in my bathroom, brushing my teeth, when I heard this strange creaking sound under the tiles. At first, I thought maybe it was the pipes shifting, or maybe just my imagination. But within seconds, I felt the floor dip slightly beneath my feet. I froze. "Linda!" I called out to my wife. She came rushing in. "What happened?" she asked, her face immediately worried. I pointed down. "Do you feel that?" She stepped onto the tile, and her eyes widened. The ground shifted, just slightly, but enough to make both of us exchange a look of dread. Now, I'm not just any guy. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I've been through things most people can't even imagine. I've seen floors shake under rocket fire, and I've seen chaos up close. But let me tell you, nothing feels quite like the terror of realizing your home, your safe place, is literally sinking beneath your feet. The next day, I called a plumber. He came, poked around, and after a couple of hours, he shook his head. "Your sewer lines collapsed," he said grimly. My stomach sank. He went on, explaining how the roots of a massive oak tree out front had invaded the pipes, cracking them until they finally gave way. I glanced out the window at that tree. It was huge, older than the house itself, its roots sprawling deep into the ground. I didn't plant it. It wasn't on my private property line. It belonged to the HOA. "That tree isn't even mine," I muttered. The plumber shrugged. "Doesn't matter whose tree it is. The sewer runs onto your property. It's your line, your problem. And it's going to cost you at least $8,000. $8,000. I swear my knees nearly gave out right there. "8,000, I gasped. "You've got to be kidding me. I'm on a fixed income. I can't just pull $8,000 out of thin air." He gave me that look contractors give when they know they're the bearer of bad news but can't do anything about it. "Sorry, sir, but that's the reality." When he left, Linda and I sat down at the kitchen table, both of us staring at the estimate like it was a death sentence. "This isn't right," she whispered. "That's not our tree. It's the HOA's. They have to take responsibility." And in that moment, a fire lit inside me. Because she was right. That oak tree was their responsibility. And I wasn't about to let them bury me in debt because of their negligence. I grabbed my phone and called the HOA office. "Hi, this is Richard Carter from Unit 27. I need to file a complaint. Your tree just destroyed my sewer line." There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then the receptionist spoke in that cold, scripted tone. "Sir, the HOA doesn't take responsibility for private property damage. Sewer lines are the homeowner's responsibility." I gripped the phone tighter. "Listen carefully. That tree is your responsibility. If your property damages mine, that's on you." She sighed. "I'll pass the message along to the board, but don't expect much." And just like that, I knew this was going to be a fight. I hung up and looked at Linda. Her eyes searched mine, desperate. "What did they say?" I said, "They said it's not their problem." Her face fell. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing the faint drip of water in the bathroom, imagining the floor collapsing under us. $8,000. Gone, just like that. And all because the people who were supposed to protect this neighborhood refused to do the right thing. But I wasn't going to take it lying down. No. If they thought they could bury me under $8,000 of debt, they were about to find out just how wrong they were, because I was ready to fight back. And little did I know, this was only the beginning. The following week, I stood outside the HOA clubhouse with a manila folder clutched in my hands. Inside were photos of the cracked sewer pipe, the estimate from the plumber, and a copy of the property map clearly showing that the oak tree was on their land, not mine. I could feel my heart thumping. Not from fear, no, I've stared down worse things in my life, but from anger. Pure, boiling anger. "Ready?" Linda asked, touching my arm gently. She'd come with me, her presence steadying me. I nodded. They're not going to like what I have to say. We walked inside. The clubhouse smelled of stale coffee and air freshener. Rows of folding chairs lined the room, neighbors scattered throughout. Some were whispering, curious about why the board had called this special meeting. At the front, 3 board members sat behind a long table. The president, Mr. Jameson, a man with slicked-back gray hair and a smug smile, adjusted his glasses when he saw me. "Mr. Carter," he said, his voice dripping with politeness that didn't reach his eyes, "you asked for this meeting. Please, state your case." I walked to the podium, took a deep breath, and began. "Neighbors, board members, my name is Richard Carter. Many of you know me. I've lived here nearly 15 years. I served this country in Vietnam, and when I came back, all I wanted was peace, family, and a roof that wouldn't fall apart." A few people nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably. "I served this country in Vietnam, and when I came back, all I wanted was peace, family, and a roof that wouldn't fall apart. But last week, my bathroom floor nearly collapsed because the sewer line beneath my house was destroyed. And do you know what caused it? The roots of that oak tree out front." I pulled out the photos, holding them up for everyone to see. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. "This tree, your tree, maintained by this HOA, grew into my pipes, crushed them, and now I'm left with a repair bill of $8,000. Jameson raised his hand. "Mr. Carter, as you know, sewer lines are the responsibility of the homeowner. It's in the bylaws." I cut him off. "Don't hide behind fine print, Jameson. That tree isn't mine. I didn't plant it. I didn't neglect it. You did. And when your property damages mine, that's on you." The room went silent. Karen Mitchell, one of the more infamous Karens in the neighborhood, piped up from the back. She was known for complaining about everyone's lawn height and barking dogs. Now her voice cut through the air. "Oh, come on, Richard. We all have issues with these old trees. You can't expect the board to pay for every little problem. That's what insurance is for." I turned to face her, my jaw tight. "This isn't a little problem, Karen. My floor could have caved in with my grandkids standing on it. This is negligence, plain and simple." Some neighbors murmured in agreement. Others frowned, unsure. Jameson leaned forward, clasping his hands. "We sympathize, Mr. Carter. Truly, we do. But the board cannot approve reimbursement for private property damage. If we make an exception for you, we'll have to make an exception for everyone." His words were smooth, but his tone was final, like a judge slamming down a gavel. I clenched the podium, feeling my knuckles whiten. "So that's it? You're telling me I have to empty my savings, money I don't even have, because you don't want to take responsibility for your own property?" He gave a fake, sympathetic smile. "I'm sorry. That's the rule." I looked around the room, searching for support. My neighbors shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. No one wanted to go against the board. No one wanted to get on Jameson's bad side. And in that moment, I felt the kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than any battlefield wound. These were supposed to be my neighbors, my community,
People who waved at me when I mowed the lawn, who borrowed sugar, who clapped during the 4th of July parade. And now they sat there in silence, letting me drown. I swallowed hard, my voice breaking slightly. I gave everything for this country, and now I can't even get fairness in my own neighborhood. A hush fell over the room. But then, something unexpected happened. From the second row, an older woman stood up, Mrs. Daniels. She'd lived here nearly as long as I had, always kept her rose bushes perfect. "That's not right," she said firmly. "If the HOA's tree caused this, they should pay. Otherwise, what are we paying dues for?" The room stirred. Heads turned. Whispers rose. Jameson's smile faltered. "Mrs. Daniels, please sit down. This is not up for—" But she didn't sit. Neither did a few others who started nodding. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't alone. The HOA might have thought they could silence me, but the truth was leaking out, spreading like cracks in that sewer pipe. I gathered my papers, looked Jameson dead in the eye, and said, "If you think I'm letting this go, you've got another thing coming." Then I turned and walked out, Linda by my side, my heart pounding, not with defeat, but with determination. Because I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And what happened next would shake this neighborhood to its core.
I thought I'd walk out of that clubhouse feeling beaten down, but instead, I felt a fire building inside me. Linda squeezed my hand as we walked to the car. "They're not going to win this, Richard," she whispered. "Not if you keep fighting." And fight I would. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, scrolling through my phone. I'd never been much for social media, but my granddaughter had set up a Facebook account for me years ago. I opened it and, with shaking hands, typed out the story of what had happened. $8,000. That's what I'm being forced to pay because the HOA refuses to take responsibility for their own tree. I served this country, and I shouldn't have to beg for fairness in my own neighborhood. If this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. I hit post. Within hours, the comments started flooding in. "Unbelievable! They did the same thing to my cousin in Florida. HOAs think they're above the law. You should take them to court." Some of my own neighbors chimed in too, both for and against me. Karen Mitchell, of course, couldn't resist. She commented, "Richard, stop exaggerating. The board is right. You should have maintained your pipes better. Playing the veteran card doesn't change the rules." I gritted my teeth. But then Mrs. Daniels wrote back, "Karen, stop being cruel. That tree isn't Richard's responsibility, and you know it." Soon the thread became a battleground. Neighbors arguing, strangers from other states sharing their own HOA horror stories, and even a local community page picking it up. By the end of the week, my post had hundreds of shares. People I didn't even know were calling me the veteran who got railroaded by his HOA. The pressure was building. One evening, as I was taking out the trash, my neighbor Tom, good guy, about my age, former firefighter, walked over. "Richard," he said, lowering his voice, "I saw your post. You're not wrong. That oak's been tearing up the sidewalk for years. They should have dealt with it ages ago." I sighed. "So you'll back me?" He hesitated, looked around. "I want to, but you know how it is. People are scared of crossing Jameson. They raise your dues, they fine you for every little thing. They make life hell." His words stung, not because they were wrong, but because they were true. I patted his shoulder. "You don't have to stand up for me. Just don't let them silence you if this happens to you." He nodded, guilt in his eyes. Later that night, Linda and I sat on the porch, watching the streetlights flicker. She handed me a glass of iced tea. "You've already started something bigger than just us," she said softly. "They're afraid. That's why Jameson is doubling down. But you've got people talking. That matters." I stared at the dark silhouette of that cursed oak tree swaying in the breeze. It stood tall and unbothered, while my house had nearly fallen apart because of it. And then it hit me. This wasn't just about $8,000. This was about power, about accountability, about standing up to people who thought they could bully everyone into silence. The next morning, I drove down to the local news station. The receptionist raised an eyebrow when I walked in with my folder of photos. "I've got a story for you," I said. By that evening, a young reporter named Melissa was sitting at my kitchen table recording my words with her phone. "So let me get this straight. The HOA maintains that tree, its roots destroyed your sewer line, and now they're sticking you with the bill?" "Exactly. And you have proof?" I slid the papers toward her. She scanned them, eyes widening. This is something people will want to hear." The next night, I turned on the TV and nearly dropped my glass when I saw my own face staring back at me. "Local veteran fights HOA over $8,000 repair bill," the headline read. The story spread like wildfire. Neighbors called, friends texted, people stopped me at the grocery store just to shake my hand. Some offered advice, others just said, "Keep fighting." But not everyone was supportive. Karen marched up to my porch the next day, arms crossed, her face red. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she snapped. "You've embarrassed this entire neighborhood. The board is furious, and if you think this little stunt will get you a payout, you're dead wrong." I stood my ground. "What I've done, Karen, is tell the truth. If the truth embarrasses you, that's not my problem." She huffed, spun on her heel, and stormed off. But as I watched her retreat, a thought gnawed at the back of my mind. The board wasn't going to take this lying down. No, things were about to get worse. Much worse. The news report had barely finished airing when the retaliation began. I woke up one morning to find a bright yellow paper taped to my front door. Bold letters screamed across the top, "Notice of violation." The reason? Improper lawn maintenance. I stared at it in disbelief. My lawn had been trimmed just 3 days earlier. I could still smell the fresh-cut grass. But apparently, to the HOA, a single dandelion sprouting near the mailbox was enough to label me a criminal. Linda stood behind me, reading over my shoulder. "They're targeting us," she whispered. "Richard, they're not going to stop." And she was right. Within a week, 3 more notices came. One for paint chipping on the fence, another for unauthorized garden decorations, and the most ridiculous one, flag placement violation. I had a small American flag mounted near the porch, a symbol I carried with me since my days in Vietnam. According to the notice, it wasn't the approved placement. My blood boiled. I marched into the clubhouse that afternoon, waving the papers in my hand. The board sat in their usual circle, with Jameson at the head like a king surrounded by his loyal knights. Karen was there too, smirking as if she'd already won. "Enough of this nonsense," I said, slamming the notices on the table. "These fines are nothing but retaliation for speaking the truth." Jameson leaned back in his chair, calm and smug. "Richard, the board enforces the rules equally for all residents. If you feel targeted, perhaps it's because you're not maintaining your property properly." I laughed bitterly. "Maintaining my property? Your tree nearly destroyed my house, and now you're nitpicking over a flag? You think people can't see through this?" Karen chimed in, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You brought this on yourself, Richard. You wanted to play hero on TV? Well, actions have consequences." I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. "No, corruption has consequences, and you're about to see them." I walked out, but inside, doubt gnawed at me. The fines added up quickly. $50 here, $100 there, and if they kept piling on, they could even put a lien on my home. That was their real weapon.
The HOA could push people out of their houses without ever stepping foot in court. That night, as I sat at the table running the numbers, Linda touched my arm. "We can't let them scare us into silence. You've already shown them you won't back down. We have to keep going." I looked into her eyes, tired but determined, and I knew she was right. So I doubled down. I contacted an attorney, a young woman named Sarah, who specialized in HOA disputes. She flipped through my paperwork, her brow furrowing deeper with every page. "Richard, this isn't just negligence. This is retaliation, and that's illegal. If you're willing to fight, I think we can build a strong case." Hearing those words lit a fire in me, but just when I thought I had the upper hand, the HOA struck again, this time harder. A letter arrived by certified mail. I signed for it, opened it, and felt my stomach drop. It wasn't another fine. It was a threat of foreclosure. According to their records, I now owed over $3,000 in accumulated fines and administrative fees, and if I didn't pay, they had the right to take my house. Linda gasped when she saw the letter. They wouldn't dare. But I knew better. HOAs always dared. That was their power. Intimidation, bureaucracy, the slow squeeze until you broke. I sat down heavily, staring at the paper, the words blurring. For the first time, I felt fear creep into my chest. This wasn't just about $8,000 anymore. This was about our home, the place where I'd raised my kids, where Linda and I had built a life. But then, I remembered the news coverage, the Facebook post, the neighbors whispering their support. I wasn't alone anymore. I folded the letter, set it on the table, and looked at Linda. "They want a war?" I said, my voice steady. "Then they'll get one."
The foreclosure threat was the last straw. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the letter, my hands shaking, not from fear this time, but from rage. They thought they could silence me. They thought they could bury me under paperwork and fees until I folded. But instead, they lit a fire they couldn't put out. I picked up the phone, called Sarah, my attorney, and said, "It's time. Let's go public." She didn't hesitate. "I'll set everything up, but Richard, once we start, there's no going back. The HOA will come at you with everything they've got." I took a deep breath. Let 'em. I've faced worse than this. The next week, Sarah organized a community town hall meeting at the local church hall, somewhere the HOA board couldn't control. Flyers went out, neighbors whispered, and by the night of the meeting, the place was packed. I stood at the front with Linda by my side, my cane planted firmly on the wooden floor. As I looked around, I saw familiar faces, neighbors who had stayed quiet for too long, now eager to hear the truth. I held up the foreclosure letter. This is what happens when you speak out against corruption. This is what happens when you dare to question the people who are supposed to protect us. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I pointed toward the back, where Jameson and Karen had shown up, arms crossed, smug as ever. They want to take my home. They want to silence me. But the truth is, they're hiding something from all of you. Sarah stepped forward, holding a stack of documents. "We've obtained financial records through public requests, and what we found is disturbing." She flipped through the papers, laying them out for all to see. Thousands of dollars marked for landscaping, but no record of work being done. HOA funds being used for travel expenses, including hotel stays and restaurants hundreds of miles away. And the most shocking? Over $20,000 unaccounted for, simply marked as miscellaneous. Gasps filled the hall. Karen's face went pale, but she quickly recovered, shouting, "This is slander. You don't know what you're talking about."
I raised my voice over hers. Slander? No, Karen, it's evidence. And every single person in this room deserves to know how their money is being stolen. The room erupted, neighbors shouting, demanding answers. One man stood up, his voice trembling with anger. My dues went up last year and they said it was for road repairs. Where's that money, huh? A woman shouted, my husband got fined for a kid's swing set while you've been taking vacations on our money? Karen tried to yell back, but the crowd wasn't having it. For the first time, the power shifted. Jameson banged his fist on a chair, trying to calm everyone. This is a smear campaign. Don't believe these lies. But then, something happened that silenced the room. An elderly woman stood up from the front row. Her name was Mrs. Holloway, one of the oldest residents in the community. She held up her phone, and on the screen was a photo of Karen and Jameson dining at a luxury restaurant in Las Vegas, taken straight from Karen's own social media account. The date matched perfectly with the miscellaneous expense Sarah had mentioned. The hall exploded. Neighbors booed, shouted, and began chanting, "Step down! Step down!" Karen's face twisted with rage. Jameson went red, sweating, mumbling excuses. But it was too late. The truth was out, and the crowd had turned. I felt tears sting my eyes as I looked around the hall. For the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. Linda squeezed my hand, whispering, "You did it, Richard. You really did it." But deep down I knew it wasn't over yet. Exposure was one thing. Justice was another. And justice was coming.
The town hall ended in chaos. Neighbors stormed out, angry and betrayed, while Karen and Jameson scurried away like cornered rats. But the real fight started the next morning. Sarah filed an injunction against the foreclosure, citing corruption, misuse of funds, and retaliation against a homeowner. Within a week, the local news was at my doorstep. Cameras flashed, microphones shoved in my face, and I finally had the chance to tell my story. I looked straight into the lens and said, I fought for my country overseas, and now I'm fighting for my home. No veteran, no family, no neighbor should ever be bullied by the very people meant to protect them. The story blew up. Within days, it spread across social media. Vietnam vet versus HOA became a headline that struck a nerve with people far beyond our neighborhood. Strangers sent letters, veterans groups reached out, and lawyers volunteered their support. Karen tried to spin it, claiming I was lying, but every time she opened her mouth, more evidence surfaced. Photos, receipts, hidden contracts. It was like their whole web of lies unraveled thread by thread. And then, the hammer finally dropped. At a special emergency meeting, the HOA board announced that both Karen Mitchell and Jameson Brooks were removed from their positions, ending a full investigation. The county district attorney opened a case for embezzlement and fraud. When Karen walked out of that meeting, she didn't have the same smug look anymore. She looked small, defeated, powerless. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe again. Weeks later, repairs finally began on my sewer line, paid in full by the HOA under new leadership. I stood in the yard with Linda, watching the workers dig up the broken pipe. Linda smiled, squeezing my shoulder. "It's over, Richard. You won." But I shook my head softly. "We all won, Linda. This wasn't just about me. It was about everyone they tried to silence." I thought back to the nights I sat in silence, wondering if speaking up was worth it, if losing my home, my peace, and my health was too high a price to pay. But now, seeing neighbors stop by with food, offering hugs,
thanking me for standing up. I knew the fight mattered. The HOA wasn't perfect, and it probably never would be. But one thing had changed. People weren't afraid anymore. And as for me, I leaned on my cane, watching the last piece of pipe being replaced. "Funny," I said to Linda with a chuckle, "all this started because of a tree." She laughed softly, wiping a tear. "Yeah, but it ended with justice." I looked up at that same tree swaying in the wind, and for the first time, it didn't feel like a curse hanging over me. It felt like a reminder of how fragile things are and how strong we can be when we refuse to back down. Because in the end, I realized something. Home isn't just a building, it's a place worth fighting for.